I got stopped out on this trade right here on NASDAQ today, but I still really like the trade, and let me show you exactly why. Obviously, as you can see, we just barely missed. We just had our entry a little bit too early, but let's go ahead and recap this super quick. So today we had CPI, but before we get into CPI, let's go ahead and look at our daily time frame. So here on the daily time frame, you can see yesterday we had this big retracement to the downside. We didn't really sweep out any liquidity here or anything like that. But what we did do is if you pull the Fibonacci from the low to the high up here, you can see if we put this on the 0.5, you can see we've retraced down through the 0.5 level. So now we've reached equilibrium, which means if we're going to be looking for bullish price action, we could see it start to happen. Also, if we go on the daily time frame, another thing is since we closed below the low of the previous day back here, that made me believe that this day we would want to take out previous day low. Now, obviously, we already did that and got a nice high reaction off of the candle. Now, going into the 4-hour time frame, okay. We had already came in and tapped into this big 4-hour gap right here and reacted off of that. So that was one thing that led me to be a little bit bearish. However, not only that, but since we had already rebalanced this entire leg up right here, I was honestly looking for these relative equal highs up here to get taken out and for us to fill in the rest of this new week opening gap. But I wasn't dead set on that, okay? Going into the hourly, let's look at our confluences here. Actually, no, first on the 4-hour, you can see we don't really have anything down here. We have this tiny fair value gap right here, not even big enough for me to really care about. Anyway, now if we go down onto the 1-hour time frame, you'll see we had this 1-hour fair value gap down here, which was a little bit of a point of interest for me. You know, I was open to if we came down here to looking for a trade off of this, but we didn't end up coming down here. So this is kind of irrelevant. But the other thing that we did have today was if we go on the 15-minute time frame, we had this nice 15-minute gap right here. This was the key for today's trade. Other than that, if we go on the 1-minute time frame really quick, I'm going to mark out what I had earlier, which was this data low. Okay, so this 7:30 a.m. candle was the data low. All right. So now if we're looking here back on the 15-minute time frame, whenever market opened, which again is like right here on this vertical line, if you can see it, what I was looking for price to do here, and if you know anything about data highs and data lows, we often want to see price sweep one side and then go towards the other. We don't want to see these data highs get left untapped. So for my bias, since we had this 15-minute gap right here, I wanted to see us come down, sweep out these data lows, tap into this 15-minute gap and respect it, and then move to the upside targeting these data highs and eventually maybe targeting 10 a.m. At the time of market open. Obviously, we didn't know where 10 a.m. was going to open though. And then even if you go down onto the lower time frames, you can see we have some relative equal highs in here as well. So we have equal highs, we have data high, and we have this data low, and we have a 15-minute gap. So that's kind of the things we're using for today's trade, okay? So market opened right here. We kind of come in here and we're just chopping around. Price looks absolutely terrible at this time, right? Also, I want to keep in mind we have Fed chairman testifying right at the 10 a.m. key open, okay? Which makes it a little bit scary, but if we look at this, open this folder, you can see the source released testimony text 90 minutes before it was scheduled. So that means the data was already pretty much out there, so should have been priced in my opinion, okay? So we just wait for 10 a.m. to open. We get a tiny bit of manipulation higher, which let's see how much this even is. About 24 points. So honestly, not bad in terms of manipulation, but based on all these other candles, I didn't like this manipulation here. Didn't seem like enough in my opinion. So whenever we started moving to the downside, I was very happy because I was looking for us to come and tap into this 15-minute gap. So we get a nice big rejection wick right here out of that 15-minute gap. It's been like 50% filled now. So I really liked what I saw there. I waited for this bullish candle to close right here, this very first white one. Once that closed, I put my entry right here at the start of this rejection block with my stop loss just below the low because I put it at 20 points right here. Boom. And this was my stop loss. Sometimes I do the CE of the wick, but since it was 20 points, I was totally cool with that. So I went with a 20-point stop loss. Okay. Then I set my first, I was gonna go break even right here at this start of this fair value gap, these these equal highs on the 1 minute. So right here is my break even point. Of course we didn't get there, but anyway, so I get tapped in literally on this candle right here. We get a nice good reaction off here. I'm up about, let's see, I'm up about 1.7 risk to reward, so not bad, but definitely nothing there for me to go break even on. Again, I was waiting for this to get hit before I went break even, but we didn't get that. And then price just reversed, came down. We filled the entire 15-minute fair value gap. On the 1 minute, it looks like we're just going to continue lower, but if you look at the 15 and wait for that, you can see we actually did respect this 15-minute gap very, very well. And you could have honestly taken this 15-minute rejection block, but I didn't like it because it was just massive. And let's see, if we wanted to have our stop loss below the CE, it would have had to be like a 52 point stop loss, which in my opinion is just way too big for the trades I'm looking to take here. Sorry about all this changing around. I'm just marking what this would have looked like out. Up to these equal highs, it would have been a 1 to 2.7, not something I like. Taking up to data highs, it would have been a 1 to 5 almost. So that's valid, but I didn't like that trade. Just too big of a stop loss for me, so I don't really like taking 15 minutes. I would prefer to take a 5 minute. And here on the 5 minute, I was looking for an entry, but by the time we got this rejection block confirmed, we had closed all the way up here and we didn't retest this low. And even that would have been a big stop loss. It would have still been like 30, 35 points. We just didn't get an entry there. So we took our one trade and we were done for the day. 10 a.m. key open, nothing really to take for me. Maybe like, yeah, I don't really know, nothing. Because even if you pull the fib here, it doesn't align, I don't believe. Yeah, nothing really aligning there. We had a 1 minute rejection block here essentially, but I don't know if I don't think there's an SMT here, so not even really a good rejection block. Again, just nothing really great to take there. I do believe this was a very good trade in my opinion. Only other thing I would have maybe wanted to do is wait for, I don't even know. I mean, we pretty much had a rejection on the 2 minute, 3 minute, 4 minute. But it just didn't happen. It just didn't happen. And that's the thing about this is you have to understand it's a 30 to 50% win rate. So you're gonna lose a lot of trades here. But if this hits, you're up big and it makes up all of your losses. So again, to recap, we wanted to see this data low get taken out and tap into this 15-minute fair value gap and get a nice reaction out of it, creating a rejection block, which is what we got. So we placed our entry at the top of this rejection block with our stop below the wick, and we just simply targeted 10 a.m. key open. We targeted these relative equal highs. We targeted the data high as well up here. I was probably going to partial. I was going to take partial off at 10 a.m. Then I was going to take a partial off at these equal highs, and then I would let the rest run all the way to the data high. But unfortunately, we got stopped out. But again, very happy with this trade. I'm going to keep trading just like this, and hopefully you guys are learning something from these videos, because this is what it takes to genuinely be profitable, is to keep executing on your model and keep trading it, and you don't just give up after you take a couple losses. And just because you take a couple losses, you're going to make that all back. That's the point of the strategy, is 30 to 50% win rate and high risk to reward. So I hope you guys learned something. I'm out. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.